Hello, thank you for joining me on this episode 77 of the Oikos Family Podcast. Well, it is quite crazy because episode 76 was done in September of 2020 and I'm sitting here now in March of 2021. So 6 months has passed since the last podcast. So what I wanted to do today was just to share with you little snippets of the past 6 months. It's been a very interesting 6 months, actually, a bit of a whirlwind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in September 2020 and just go from there. Those of you who are listening may or may not know that we are a publishing house here at Oikos. We've had a lot of the titles that we distribute through Oikos have been made available to us to print here in South Africa, meaning we've received printing rights for them. Of course, that took many years to establish, but we are very pleased that that did happen, because if you think about what happened in 2020 with the lockdown and airports and docks and everything else just shut down overnight, well, we could continue to print, which meant you could continue to receive the resources that you maybe would like for your home education journey. So anyway, we were printing more than usual because we were trying to get on top of everything. And we started having very, very severe printing problems. And because of the pandemic, we went down in our capacity of human resources. So that was meaning that there was double the amount of work with half the amount of people. However, it wasn't altogether bad because, hard work is good for us. And we just pressed on. But where we were very challenged is the fact that our printers were just not delivering. They were just not coping. And shame, the print service providers were trying their utmost to keep helping us, but they had their own challenges. Everybody has had challenges because of the pandemic. So this print service provider couldn't just, come and help us out when we needed help, because they had their situation of the same matter of human resource shortage and just all their own difficulties. So we got together with them, through various means of communicating in this new world that we're in, with adapting to the pandemic and learning to, do meetings through digital and internet and everything else rather than physical meetings. I mean, we used to meet at a coffee house and have a cup of coffee and talk about whatever we needed to discuss regarding printing. That was us and the print service provider. But now we had to try and achieve this digitally, which we did after overcoming some hurdles, jumping the hurdles. And then what transpired from that was it was decided that, we're going to move these printers into a more central location because we are out of town. And so it was just very, very difficult to service the printers where we were, and all sorts of other complications. So after much discussion, we decided we'll move the printers to a more central spot. This was a very good idea, but that in itself resulted in a lot of other complications. But we got over those as well, because fortunately we know how to persevere. We know we must persevere. We've done a lot of practicing in perseverance, and it has really helped us in this time to just keep persevering, even though we're up against the wall and up against the next wall and the next one and the next one. It really was enough to make one feel like, why even continue? Can we even continue? This just seems impossible. However, when you take it to the Lord and He says, I didn't tell you to stop. I haven't asked you to give up. You go, oh, right, okay, so let's just push on. Let's just persevere. Let's keep doing this. And I am so, so grateful for our print service providers, because they were absolutely wonderful. They walked this journey with us. Can honestly tell you that had they not come alongside us and just given us this helping hand, we would not have been able to continue printing. That is a definite. And we knew we couldn't import because all the reasons. Anybody who's listening to this anywhere in the world knows about the pandemic. It's not unique to our country where we live. It's a global thing. So there's that. People have understanding wherever they are. So what happened is we persevered, and we were very, very grateful for our print service providers being able to assist us. We moved the printers, these huge production printers, to a more central spot, which was quite a mission. And we got them settled in there, and that took a couple of weeks. And all the time while that's happening, families and parents are coming across the Oikos website and coming to discover and know Oikos, new families I'm talking about. And they not to know that we have got these behind-the-scenes walls that are just coming up one after the other. So what we were doing about that is we were just continuing to do our absolute best to support the new families that were coming along, and at the same time keep things moving in the background, behind the scenes, as it were. So we managed that. It was absolutely incredible. It took a team effort, obviously. You couldn't do it on our own. We couldn't have done it without the Lord telling us just to persevere and that He will be our strength and we must just press on. I know for an absolute certainty that I would not have been able to fulfill this, to be able to do this, what was required, had it not been that I could run to the Lord and just keep asking Him for help and support and strength. And in that time, He kept on reminding me of things that He's taught me over the years. And I have to say that I really, really have found this pandemic to be a time for me to reflect upon what God has told us in His Word, but actually to apply it in the most extreme circumstances. And it's been so interesting because we've been through valleys in our life whereby we've had to apply what His Word says and then really discover the treasure and the truth and the joy and the value in that. But now this was a whole new discovery. I mean, we'd never walked through a pandemic before. We had never faced the kinds of challenges we have here in Oikos. I mean, in the past, we've faced challenges. I mean, the one time, I think, about a few years back where the whole of Oikos was struck by lightning. The lightning hit the entire operation. And every single piece of equipment was pretty much destroyed. Actually, that's a little too exaggerated. In fact, there were a couple of things that weren't entirely destroyed, but they were damaged. But most of the items were completely destroyed, most of the equipment. In fact, even the water pump right down deep into the earth was totally fried. And we had only put it in like 18 months or so before. And it was a water pump that was meant to have like a 25-year lifespan on it. And after 18 months, it was, or maybe as much as 2 years, somewhere between 18 months and 2 years, the lightning hit it, and that was the end of it. Anyway, that now is a different story of a valley that we had to move through, whereby it was a case of, okay, well, that's the end of it then. We don't have any printers, we don't have any equipment, we've got nothing left, so maybe it's time to accept that this is the end. And then we took it to the Lord, and He said, no, I didn't tell you it was the end. And that was confirmed mostly through our parents, actually. They said, you've got to press on, you've got to continue, you must not stop this work. So we, stood up again and carried on. And so that was one kind of a trial. Well, this one with the pandemic was a whole different kind of a trial. And so what we learned in the trial when the lightning struck and everything was destroyed, and what we needed to apply in His Word in that time was different to what we had to apply in His Word at this time. And that's what I wanted to say, is that I have felt that it has been such a blessing to be able to really take aspects of His Word and put them into action, especially when you just don't even feel like it, when you feel like you can't, this is something we can't actually persevere through. That's what you feel like. But then you go to His Word and He tells you, but I'll be your strength. I didn't ask you to be strong enough to do this. I said, I will help you. I will be your strength. You go, oh, okay, well, here I am, as weak as can be. I can't do this, but He's promising me that He will be my strength in this. And I needed strength. I needed strength on every level. And so I could just rely on Him, just go to Him and say, okay, Lord, that today I need that strength that is yours, because you can see me weak and feeble. I can't do this. And then we could do it. It was absolutely incredible. So that's what happened. And, this is one of the things that has been happening between September and now. And that one thing that I've taken these few minutes to tell you about actually took a few months. It was months of this time of absolutely having to just continue to persevere in spite of every wall that came up in front of us and every breakdown and every turn we took felt like it was showing us, in the natural, it looked like we can't do this. But God said to persevere, and He said to press on, and He told us that He wants us to continue to serve and support and help the families that He brings on the path, across the path of Oikos. And that's why we did our best to do that. We didn't say to the people that were coming on the Oikos path, we can't help you because we just can't. That's actually how we felt, to be honest. We were going, well, we can't do this. But He could, and He told us that we must, and so we did. And so we continued supporting them in every way we could. And we were so grateful that we had so much else in place, like the videos on YouTube, and we had some stock, even though it was going out, the stock was just running out, and we were trying to replace it, but our printers were broken, and then we had to move our printers, so we couldn't actually do anything because the printers were in transit, as it were. The stuff that we had ordered to come from the States was, for example, some of the manipulatives that people use with the maths program. They just weren't coming because of the pandemic, and so we watched the stock going out. We didn't know how we were going to get more, and on that side, that's another whole story. My goodness, those people in America were having all their own challenges. So here we were having these challenges. They were having their challenges. And what could we do? Well, I can tell you what we did do. What we did for Matthew C is we just started praying for them because we realized that they were really, really needing support, our prayer support. So we just prayed for them, and we asked the Lord to just please give them what He was giving us in the way of strength and perseverance and pushing on and pushing through. And by the time November arrived, September, October, November, those 3 months that we wondered how we were going to come out the other side, we actually had come out the other side. We were able to continue to supply everything. The printers were set up in the new location. Our print service provider were doing their absolute utmost. They were basically thrown into the deep end without a life belt. We were making all kinds of little stories about it, such as one story that I just kept on referring to is that my brother said to me that just put your snorkel on. And I'll tell you how that happened. And rewind a little bit. I said to him, I feel like, we're not just up a creek without a paddle. You know that expression. But I said, I feel like we don't even have the boat anymore, let alone the paddle. And so he said, well, just put your goggles and snorkel on and enjoy the view beneath the surface. And that's how it actually felt. It felt like we were going through these waters of unknown territory. And the only way we could get through was with our snorkel and goggles. And so it became a bit of a joke, actually. We couldn't see above the water anymore. We couldn't see which direction. It felt like the water was just carrying us here, there, and everywhere and tossing us about. It felt like a storm. I don't know. I could go on with the actual experience of that time, but we just kept on referring to, well, let's just enjoy swimming along with our snorkel and goggles and look at what is beneath the surface. And what a blessing that was to be able to actually see what was beneath the surface. We didn't just have print service providers just being technicians and helping us with our printers. We saw deeper. We saw what was in their hearts. And we saw that they were willing to really, really dive deep and actually just help Oikos to stay afloat, really. And so I have been really looking forward to being able to just to share these 3 months with you and tell you about it. And I just really wanted to also just have an opportunity of thanksgiving to a company that didn't need to dive deeper with us. It wasn't required of them, but they did. And Oikos has been able to continue to serve and support families because of this team effort. So that's what happened between September and November. I'm sure you can understand why I wasn't sitting in the booth doing a podcast. I wouldn't have been able to do a podcast in that time. I'm not talking about practically. I suppose I could have in the middle of the night. But there was just too much going on to be able to stop and even express. I know I didn't want to sit in the booth and talk to you about the wall in front of me. Maybe I could have done that, but I would rather have seen the wall smashed down and then be able to walk over the rubble and carry on through the other side. And that's what we've been doing. That is what we did. And so that's what today's podcast is all about, to share those 3 months with you. And then in the next podcast, I'm going to share from November, end of November through to the end of February, the next 3 months, because those were very interesting too. And so that brings us to March. And then hopefully from now onwards, now that we are not having to swim with our snorkel and goggles on anymore, we're actually back in the boat. We've even got a paddle, and we're paddling along now. And we even feel as though the storm is behind us. So I hope that is going to continue some smooth waters for a little bit, because it's been quite a stormy time, of which I am very, very, very grateful for, because I just feel like God has really helped us to experience more depth of His Word, more greatness and value of what His Word says, and when we apply it, how it truly, truly does carry us through the stormy times and through the rough waters. So thank you for listening to this and this quick little catch-up of those 3 months of last year. And I look forward to sharing the next 3 months with you. Thank you for joining me. Bye for now.